This is a wonderful day at DC Water. We are so delighted you've come to join us today. Dave's been there from the beginning. My name is George Hawkins. I have the honor and pleasure of serving you as the Chief Executive of DC Water. What we are commissioning today is Surrounding You, which is a world's first at this size, North America's first anywhere, and the largest installation of the technology that you see directly behind me to make the people's plant. Because we're going to generate here a permanent clean energy that reduces our carbon footprint by 1/3. We just use biosolids, or the soils that come out at the end of this process, which are super clean. The cleanest designation that EPA has is Class A. We call ours Super A. Because it is so clean, we're going to mix it with other materials and sell it on the market and give it for good deeds, for planting trees all over the city. It's a wonderful outcome for Washington, D.C. We have a fantastic group that has joined us today to help celebrate this accomplishment. To me, this is an accomplishment of human spirit. Every single day, we're removing up to 1,200 wet tons of material that we do not want into the Potomac River, the Anacostia, or the Rock Creek, or as it heads down to the Chesapeake Bay. And the question is, what do we do with 1,200 wet tons a day? 60 tanker trucks. And it was human spirit that lended ingenuity and innovation to determine a system of this scale and magnitude, to design it, to procure it, to the board that reviewed it and approved every step of the way, to the incredible innovation and complexity of what you see around it, to the sweat of the brow of the men and women who built this facility. All of that has come to today, which is the best, to me, of humans stepping up and showing that there are solutions that can guide for our future. Before I go too much farther, we'll go right to our speakers. We do want to have a special moment. I'm asking Akile, Salil, and Chris Piot, who are 3 of our senior officials running Blue Plains, to unveil the name of this facility. And at the proper moment, please unveil. Walt Bailey, can you please come forward? This is a surprise, by the way. When I say this is a triumph of human spirit, it is also a triumph of a team of experts that has been led for the last 43 years by Walt Bailey. He retired from us about a month ago, it is. We invited him back. It's hard to hear say all the wonderful attributes of Walt. He is an encyclopedia of knowledge about how this facility or any facility operates. He is well known worldwide for his work. He's incredibly humble, so he's the last person he would tell you that. But he's also assembled one of the finest groups of professionals, so you see standing next to him, who are able to design and build this facility. So we're delighted, Walt, that forever this will be the Bailey Bioenergy facility. So congratulations, Walt. You know, it's all too easy sometimes in public discourse to be critical of public agencies. I find that infuriating myself. I know the district government is efficient and lean and functions so well. DC Water is one of the most innovative water enterprises in the world, and we compare ourselves to anyone, anywhere, anytime, because we've got the best people doing the best work in the country. But we're joined today by so many really remarkable people who are also part of a public service network that is at an optimal feature. And the first is our mayor. I've known Mayor Bowser since she was a council member, and I was actually part of Department of Environment, and we used to meet in her ward. She has done so much already in a short term as mayor. It's been remarkable accomplishments, one after the other. But in my personal experience, standing next to her in town committee meetings, is she's an excellent listener. She's one of the best, even in tough meetings, of hearing what people have to say. But she doesn't just listen. She does what makes government special. She acts. She listens, she thinks carefully, she consults with experts, and then she acts with decisiveness. So it's been incredible what she's already done, how much she's highlighted sustainability. She brought Matt Brown to us as our chair. She brought CAMBI Wells as Director of Department of Environment, two small indications of the great people she has working for her. And I'm delighted to introduce our Mayor, Muriel Bowser.
Well, thank you, Director, and I want to thank all the men and women here at DC Water. Let's give them a big round of applause. What a high honor to have a facility named for you and to have 43 years of excellent service to the people of this region. So, Mr. Bailey, congratulations on your retirement. George, I want to thank you for inviting all of us and acknowledging members of my team, certainly Matt Brown for his leadership and Tommy Wells as the Director of the Department of Energy and the Environment. We renamed that department not just because we like a bunch of new acronyms, but because it is important to focus on the energy future of the District of Columbia. We have put a focus on making sure we're pushing the sustainability envelope even farther, and because of DC Water's innovations, your willingness to accept big challenges, and your ability to be first in the nation at a lot of things, we are able to attract the attention of our federal partners, and I want to thank the EPA and the Department of Energy the Department of Environment for always being with us to celebrate these accomplishments. So I am not the person to talk about waste digesters, but I am the person to say that we have some big goals in our city about how we move forward, how we clean up our rivers, and how we are good stewards of our environment. And we cannot afford to allow waste to be just waste. So every dollar that we spend that will convert that waste into usable energy that's behind us will help us continue to reach our goals. So we'll be focused on solar, we'll be focused on wind, but we will also be focused on the best ways to convert waste to electricity, and that's exactly what we can do here. So we're going to spend a lot of time, I know, over the coming weeks talking about our energy future. We, of course, made an announcement like our friends in Maryland did some months ago about our electricity utility, and we look forward to working hand in hand with you about water, converting waste, and making sure we're doing all we can for a sustainable DC. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mayor. She's exactly right. As Chris Piot likes to say so often, there's no such thing as a waste. There's only a wasted asset. And the genius of ecology is the waste of every one organism is the food for another. So we don't have wastewater here, we have enriched water. And we can turn that into a value, and this is your plan. This is 100% funded by DC ratepayers and our wholesale customers in Montgomery, Prince George's, Fairfax, Loudoun, and Arlington. So this has been a regional investment in a plant that is world-renowned. Just quickly to tell you what you're seeing, the 1,200 metric tons that we have coming in has to be dewatered so it's capable to go through the system. That is done in the building right behind me that I'm pointing to. CAMBI is right directly behind me. That is a technology that has never been used in North America, nor nowhere in the world at this scale. The smaller canisters in silver that you see in the middle take that flow, that material and heat it up at high pressure and high temperatures. When it comes out to the flash tanks, which is the slightly larger round tank to the end, the cell walls burst. So we're not just burning up the bacteria, we're destroying it. Then it goes into the digesters. These are 80 feet tall and 110 feet wide. That's an 8-story building, but an 11-story building. There's 4 of them. Each hold almost 4 million gallons of the flow. And their microbes go in and they eat that material and generate methane. The methane comes out of the pipes here and goes into our production where we're cleaning the methane so it can be used in a power plant. that comes behind you, directly behind you, is the power plant, where that methane, it doesn't heat up water to generate power. It goes directly into giant turbine jet engines that are going to generate up to 13 megawatts of permanent clean power, some of which is used to run the plant. This facility, and then the rest goes right to Blue Plains, reducing energy costs for all of our ratepayers. You can see the size and complexity. It never could have been done without the work between universities, private companies, DC Water staff, and our board that has been at its best. Next up to speak for us is one of my best friends in DC. We've been doing this for a long time. In fact, you were here when we kicked this off, when this was just but a dirt parcel. And here, all these years later, we have it finally built. Our Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton, she has helped DC Water gain $14 million last year for our Clean Rivers project. She is one of the most important supporters of environmental issues in Congress, including water issues, but at her heart is DC and its residents, and I'm delighted that she's our Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, George. You know what? Can you, first, remember George now. George is the man that made water exciting. Now he's gone to making sewage exciting. I can't get over it. His excitement is contagious. And I want to bring some of that to Congress to get some more money. And I want to congratulate Mr. Bailey. It's the first time I've ever seen a facility named for a worker, and I love it. Thank you for all you have done. It's a terrific idea, and I want to thank you, George, and DC Water, and all of you who've been working here for another breakthrough. Just a few months ago, wasn't it, Mayor Bowser, that we joined top officials, the Vice President of the United States, and the Agricultural Secretary, Vilsack, and EPA Administrator, McCarthy, when we went to see that great big tunnel that is helping us clean the Anacostia River and taking us away from an old 19th century technology of combined sewer overflow so that the water and the sewage all get mixed together when there is a heavy rainfall. As the lead sponsor of the Anacostia Watershed Initiative that the Congress passed in 2007, I want to tell you, George, that seeing that big tunnel was really the first significant progress I had seen in cleaning up the Anacostia River. So here you come with yet another breakthrough. He's got, DC's got a lot of firsts, the first capital city not to have a vote. Now we've got the first North American facility of its kind, hydrolysis facility, and the largest in the world for green water treatment. This has enormous implications, obviously for us, but this is on the cusp of science, my friends. Turning sewage and other waste into power. I love that it's going to reduce the Blue Plains carbon footprint by a third. Does that mean it will reduce the odor by a third as well, Georgia? We see the president making global progress on climate change. Now we see the district in the forefront of local progress, a pacemaker, while I struggle in the Congress against climate change deniers, George. Most exciting to me is these DC digesters, concrete digesters, and other water technologies, and how they're going to help reduce the output, the energy output, and just reduce ultimately rates, I'm sure, George. This is what we're seeing today is the kind of magic that results when science is put to its 21st century use. I must tell you, George, it gives me real ammunition as I go back to get more water for DC funds, reminding DC Water, reminding the federal government that the water, DC water supplies and the sewage you get rid of, it goes for federal officials, the White House, and the federal government as well. Thank you for all you're doing for the District of Columbia and the nation's capital itself.
And boy, that's good water. Thank you, Congresswoman. It's hard to overstate how strong a supporter that you have been for DC Water, the city, and leading for the country. We need more people like you in Congress. I like where I am. I did want to mention that as long as this being an accomplishment of human spirit, it's also because so many have worked together to do this. This is the best of public agencies. Anyone who says a public agency can't be innovative haven't been to DC Water and so many district agencies. But it's also the best of private sector. And we have many of the partners that we have worked with from private companies that have helped build and design this system. And what I always say to private companies when they want to come and work with DC Water is I want three things. I want to know what's best in the world. I want to know how we can deliver it to DC customers and the region. And I want it at a good price. And you bring that to us and we will build it. And the folks we have here, we have Arcadis, Brown and Caldwell, CDM Smith, EPC, HAC, HGM, Luck, O'Brien and Gear, DeLon Hampton, Nev, CAMBI, the Chamber of Commerce, the incredible partnership that has been built together to build this, and I congratulate them as well for this accomplishment. Next introduction is for a very old friend from US EPA, and quite dear to my heart. As some of you know, I was an EPA official in Region 1 for many years before coming to community groups and then here to a utility. And Stan Meiburg is the Deputy Administrator of US EPA. He is the only person in US EPA history who has been the Deputy Regional Administrator of 2 regions. And I used to be a regional enforcement lawyer, and you know the person who actually runs the office is the Deputy Regional Administrator. But far more than just run offices, he's been known throughout EPA as someone who listens well, who cares about the employees, but ultimately helps make decisions that protect the environment. He came out of retirement to come back and serve the United States Environmental Protection Agency as their second-ranked official and the person who really does run the agency every day. I've been delighted to see him talk in so many venues. We're really pleased to have him back in public service here in Washington, D.C., Stan Meiburg, who is the Deputy Administrator of the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency.
George, thank you so much for that generous introduction. It's quite a gift to be here together with so many distinguished partners, Mayor and Congresswoman, Chairman of the group here, members of the City Council, my colleague Kathleen Hogan, who also, I have to say, is an EPA alumnus as well, so we're just everywhere. You have to look out. But especially following George. And George, your leadership and enthusiasm means so much, and that's the kind of thing that carries forward the progress that this project represents. Pretty impressive, $470 million for an anaerobic digester project. Because when you think about it, we are in a marathon, a long journey, and you can talk the beginning of that journey back to 1972 when the Clean Water Act passed, which would have been about the same time, Walt, that you might have started working here. So your journey and the journey of the Clean Water Act really do parallel very well, and congratulations on this dedication. How well deserved is that? That's just a great thing. But projects like Blue Plains have been part of the success of the Clean Water Act since 1972. And while we still have a lot of work to do, it's important to stop and recognize how much progress we have made since then. But it's been interesting, in thinking about clean water, we haven't always thought about water treatment as a resource recovery process. And going forward, we have to do that along with think of some of the other challenges we face ahead. For example, we do face the challenge of climate change, as Congresswoman Norton has highlighted for us. We face issues of sea level rise. We face issues of more extreme storms, although I'm glad we missed this last one. If you go down to the folks in South Carolina, they'll tell you about extreme weather and the threat to water and wastewater infrastructure. We also are looking at facing the challenge of developing a clean energy infrastructure. And projects like this are a central part of our efforts to try to develop that infrastructure and to fight climate change. But another challenge we have is long-term infrastructure financing. And George, your story here of how you finance this project is a tremendous story. And we at EPA, for our part nationwide, have looked at the use of our state revolving loan funds to help make that story a possibility for communities all across the country. And those funds have been very successful, and we financed about $133 billion in low-cost financing over the last 25 years. The nation is still going to need $600 billion in water infrastructure improvements over the next 20 years. So we have to work with all kinds of partners on finance, and innovative approaches like you've taken here are really a part of the solution, and I commend you for that. So it's just tremendously exciting on behalf of EPA to be here as part of a project that helps tackle climate change, keep water clean, generate electricity, and generate a renewable resource in terms of compost. What is not to like? And especially for me personally, because 37 years ago when I first started at EPA, one of my first projects was on energy efficiency in wastewater treatment, believe it or not. And one of the things we looked at was the use of anaerobic digestion to help generate energy. And gosh, 37 years later, here it is. How cool is that? So, but this was a result of 10 years of research in which DC Water looked at investing in these things because it was the right thing to do economically as well as environmentally. The digesters, I understand that DC Water is the single largest user of electricity in the District of Columbia. So it's a great opportunity to recover some of that. The digesters will reduce carbon emissions by 50,000 tons, which is equal to driving 100 million fewer miles, so that's pretty good, and offset $10 million of energy use every year. So whether you're in charge of the environmental department like Tommy is in DC, or you're in charge of the chief financial officer for the department, it's good either way. It works both ways. And by the way, it turns 200,000 tons of waste into soil products that can be used like we're doing with this tree for local landscaping, restoration, gardening, and tree planting. Again, what's not to like? I will close with a couple of other thoughts going back to the event we did earlier with the Vice President beside the tunnel and beside the drilling machine, which had its own name, Nanny. I love it. Back at that project, back at that dedication, Administrator McCarthy announced that we were going to establish a water infrastructure and resiliency finance center to help think about the problems of how do you pay for all this stuff. And I'm pleased to report that over the last 8 months, we've got that center stood up, have named a director, and it's now running. That's a great sign of the things we need to do across the country to help develop our infrastructure. And this digester is a great example of local leadership and commitment in facing the challenges of the future. So we just appreciate the opportunity to be here together with great partners like DC Water and the District of Columbia to make these kind of investments and show how they make sense for our communities for the future of climate change, for the future of clean water, and all the things we want for a sustainable country. Thank you very much for the chance to be here as part of this.
Thank you, Stan. And his comment about financing is absolutely right on. Your new center is the right thing at the right time, doing the right issue in the right place. You'd be interested to know that just yesterday, DC Water closed on its most recent financing deal for $350 million, all in interest at just about 4%, the lowest interest rate we have ever achieved for financing. 100 million of that is a green certified bond. The first green certified bond in the United States was done by DC Water. Mark Kim, our CFO, led the leadership on that. And we actually, some of you may have heard that on the radio because we were selling those green bonds down to smaller denominations so the people of the city could invest in projects that are making their city better. But that was done yesterday. Next up on the podium is someone who I've just met, although I've known her name for a long time. She's the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Energy Efficiency. How about that for a great job at the Department of Energy? She runs a $660 million program that is really generating projects like this nationwide. But she spent 10 years at EPA beforehand working on the Clean Power Plan. So this is an area that has been close to her heart for her entire career. We're delighted to have been able to do this so we could show you what we've done and that you've joined us here today. Kathleen Hogan, please join the tape.
Thank you. And indeed, it's very exciting to be here with all our great distinguished guests and all of you to help dedicate these very impressive facilities. This really is a great example of DC and regional leadership and cooperation achieving big results, showing how to cut costs and reduce pollution from facilities that are crucial parts of our communities. And certainly the Department of Energy is excited to have been able to play a supporting role providing technical assistance on the CHP part of this project through a lot of the CHP technical assistance we provide throughout the country. So why is this project so exciting? I think we've already heard a number of reasons, but I'll talk to it from the DOE's perspective. One, it's just a great energy efficiency project. Of course, I am the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Energy Efficiency, but that does not mean that we shouldn't all understand that energy efficiency is the nation's largest, least cost, most environmentally friendly energy resource that can also help improve our economic productivity for the long term. And unfortunately, when we look across the country, it remains largely untapped, which is why President Obama has challenged us to cut in half the energy we waste by our homes, businesses, and factories while doubling our energy productivity over the next 15 years. And this is a project that can help lead the way. So that is exciting. It also represents an important energy use in our communities. Some 4% of the nation's electricity use goes toward moving and treating water, wastewater, and these facilities are typically the largest energy user in any community, and we certainly heard that that's true here. So very important project. It's also providing real-world demonstration of highly efficient technologies. CHP offers the cost-effective potential for more than 40 gigawatts of power in this country on top of what we already have. And it's a particularly attractive technology for wastewater treatment facilities where it can use the waste products that are available 24/7 to produce heat and power and thereby cut costs and reduce carbon dioxide emissions. And we've heard other people speak to this, keep this critical infrastructure running without interruption, even during a grid outage, thereby enhancing community resiliency. And we certainly see tremendous additional opportunity for these technologies across the country. This project is also offering tremendous results, benefiting the residents of DC, Maryland, and Virginia, with a capacity to treat 370 million gallons of water per day. It is the largest in the world, the largest electrical user in the DC area. And this new CHP system will provide more than a third of the energy DC needs to run the plant and reduce its costs by about $10 million a year, which will go back to the people paying these costs. And as we just saw with the planting of the tree, the plant also produces these widely usable Class A biosolids. So that is an amazing project. So let me just add my congratulations to everyone here who helped make this happen. We at the department really value your leadership, not just for this project, but what we can continue to do with you to share the successes across the country and really see many of more of these projects come to fruition. So again, thank you for having me.
By the way, I was just informed, Mayor, you've been called away by your staff, so if any of our dignitaries need to, I know we have a long program, but thank you very much for coming, and we look forward. There's more coming, more projects coming. I hope to invite the mayor to lots of exciting things in the future, but anyways, thank you for being here. Next, I'm delighted to introduce the council member who's actually the oversight chair for DC Water, but has actually been someone I've been interacting since the day I came to DC now almost 9 years ago. And this is Councilmember Mary Che. Mary Che does chair the committee of the DC Council that focuses on environmental issues. She is on a green council. She is its most green member. I know I've been talking to her about this project for a long time. So it is really excited to welcome her back to the facility. She's been here many times before, to have her see it built and in operation. So I'm delighted to welcome to the forum Councilmember Mary Shea from Ward 3.
This day, for me, is actually thrilling. One of the most thrilling celebrations I've ever been to. And I have to thank so many people, you know, our federal partners, Congresswoman Norton, the Director of the Environment, and of course, Mr. Bailey, because he's been here forever. But, you know, I want to do a special thank you to George. As he mentioned, we have worked together since he's come here, since I've been on the council, and you can have all of the plans you want, you can have all of the ideas, but unless you have a visionary leader like George, it won't happen. And what we have in front of us today, I think I can say without qualification, this is the kind of thing that will actually save our planet. It will save the planet. And in terms of what's going on around the world and around the country, the fact of the matter is it's local jurisdictions like DC and our region that are leading the way in innovation and creativity. And what could be a better example than this, that takes the quintessential waste product and turns it into energy, and then what remains can be used as fertilizer, better than any fertilizer that you can get at the store, although we will be trying to sell it, I understand. This is, you know, exactly the kind of thing that we need for the future. And as is often said, you know, the cheapest energy is the energy you don't use. And the best way we can use our energy when we do need to use it is to use it as efficiently and sustainably as possible. Now, you've heard about what this project affords us, and it is fantastic. It is thrilling. This is so celebratory. But you know what? This is just the beginning. George and I have been talking. We've been talking to our DPW department, and we've been talking to the Department of the Environment. What you can do with this is scalable. While this will make up between a quarter and a third of the electricity use of this very plant, which DC Water is our largest electric user, and it's extraordinary in that regard, what this holds is the possibility, the promise of using organic wastes in general. And I've been even thinking about not just composting, but all organic wastes are potentially a source of fuel for this project. And we will be part of that as we move forward. I'm even hoping, talk about sustainability, every year we pick up in the District of Columbia mounds and mounds and mounds of leaves. And if we could figure out a way to make that into a slurry, put it into that CAMBI machine and move it forward, it's really the potential is extraordinary. So I am absolutely delighted to be here. I've been excited about this from the very beginning. George and I vie with each other with wide eyes when we think about the possibilities. And before we go much further, could we have a special round of applause for George Hawkins? And George will be the first to deflect from himself and talk about his staff appropriately, because nobody does things on his or her own. But believe me, without his leadership, without his vision, we wouldn't be sitting here today. So I want to thank you for inviting me. I want to thank everybody who's been a part of this. And Mr. Bailey, you can return to retirement, I guess. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member. She is right that we do have plans for what might be coming in the future. We do have the space to put in some more CAMBI and to put in at least 2 more digesters, so who knows what is to come. That is what Mary and I plot and plan along with our next guest. And you are very kind to mention it to me. I always feel funny about getting credit for anything, because I always say, I'm the chief executive here, but I don't actually do anything. I didn't build any of this. I didn't design any of this. None of this happened because of me. This happened because of the people who work for DC Water and all of our partners who knew how to design, build, finance, and make this happen. So it really is the people of DC Water and all the partners that we have that build a facility like this, and I honor them every day. Next on the podium is also one of my oldest friends who used to be on council. Tommy Wells is now the director of the Department of Energy and the Environment. They changed the name but added energy, and what better thing for than today. And Tommy and I have also done a lot of work over the years. I well remember that morning in the packed conference room when we did the bag fee that has raised tremendous revenue to clean up the Anacostia River. And by the way, for just 5 cents extra, the amount of bags being used by people in the district, what did it drop by 30 or 40%? It's an incredible change to behavior, and that was Tommy's work that we were glad to be able to support. So he's made such a measurable impact when he was on the council, and now he runs a very fine environmental agency for the whole country, and ours here in the city. Tommy Wells, director of the Department of Energy and the Environment.
Thank you, George. I'm gonna have to scoot, but thank you very much. Congratulations. It's a great project.
Thank you, Stan, and Kathleen, our federal counterparts. I'm honored to be here with our Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton, of course, with our Mayor Muriel, with Mary Che and her leadership in this very interesting area of environment and energy and public works, as you've heard, and of course with Matt Brown from our team, and also in your leadership here, and of course George. Let me say that who knew that public works could be so much fun and so interesting to the whole nation? I did go to an event where Cardinal Wuerl was there to christen one of our diggers, the things that are digging the big tunnels throughout the city. And then he brings out the vice president and then secretaries for another public works event like this. And I thought, what's next? What's going to happen this time that's going to be so much more interesting? And I was handed this bag of enriched biosolids, whatever we call this, with some garlic attached to it. I thought one of the most interesting party favors I have ever been given, whatever you want to call it. If I forget it and I just shorthand it when I hand this to my wife back home and say, look, I brought home a bag of enrichment, I guess is what I'll call it. Yes, you have an amazing way of doing things, George. I also have to, I want to acknowledge our counterparts as a region. We've done many amazing things. And I want to acknowledge Lisa Felt, who's head of the environment for Montgomery County, and Adam Ortiz, my counterpart in Prince George's County, was here. Adam is somewhere around here. But together as a region, we've done amazing things. Think about it. We now are #1 as a region for Energy Star buildings in America. We were behind by 6 buildings from LA. We've overcome them with more Energy Star buildings than any other region in America, and it's because we're doing that together. 3 years in a row, we've added more green roofs than any region in the country. We continue to push the envelope. We have more LEED certified buildings per capita than any city in America. And now we have the first of one of these with technology, first time in North America. What we're doing together as a community and as a region is remarkable. It's leading the nation, and it certainly is at a time when the nation needs it. And now, as the mayor noted, we have signed an agreement about the future of energy. And this is a part of that. And hopefully you'll participate in the 10 megawatts of solar power that we just agreed to with Exelon and Pepco. And then, of course, wind power for the region into the Atlantic region area, and all the other things that we have to do to chart a course together. It takes vision, like what George has, it takes courage, and it takes guts. And I think what I want to end with is that, George, I know that at times your board has to say, are we really going to do this? That you guys have really bought into a vision. You have something to be, to show for. People from across the world are going to come look at this. I want to thank you for trusting that vision, investing our treasure together. We're very, very proud today, and thank you for your work.
do want to, this is the final speaker on the podium today, but a very important one. And want to comment that Director Wells made that is very important. This was a project financed by you. One could say it is generated by you too. Let you think about that one for a second. But it is financed by you. This is the people's facility. It's named after Walt Bailey, but this is financed by the people of the Washington metropolitan region. It is Montgomery County, it is Prince George's County, Fairfax, Arlington, Loudoun, and Washington, D.C. people who paid for this. And the governing body that oversees D.C. Water ultimately had to make the decision. And the care that went into their oversight role and the courage that they displayed to make an investment of this size and of this nature, to me, is the highest form of civic service for a governing body. And we're delighted to have our chair of our board, Matt Brown. By the way, not only is Matt chair of our board, he is the budget director for Washington, D.C. And that's actually the perfect person to have speaking next. Because yes, there's green attributes, we're cutting our carbon footprint, we're generating clean power, we have this class Super A soil amendment where we're going to have that's generated, but it's also a good deal on the books. And there's no one better to think about that and who looks after the books for Washington, D.C. than Matt Brown, the board chair of D.C. Water.
Thank you, George. It really is an honor to be here today. You've heard a lot about this great facility, so I won't repeat what's been said. But I think what really made this happen are two things, innovation and leadership. And those are two things, as George mentioned earlier, are not always hallmarks of the public sector. But innovation and leadership is what is important for us as public servants to deliver the best to those who we serve. Innovation and leadership is about taking risk, taking on a challenge, doing homework, so you're making the right investment, and trying something new. And that's exactly what was done here. And today we celebrate those who innovated, took that risk, and provided leadership so we can stand here today and dedicate this facility, the largest of its kind in the world. As George mentioned, I'm the chair. I have the honor to be the chair of the DC Water Board of Directors. And along with my colleagues from the district, Prince George's, Montgomery, and Fairfax counties, we work to guide this organization. And I want to introduce the members of the board who have joined me today. Alan Roth, wave. Howard Gibbs, Nick Majette, Lisa Felt, David Lake, and I understand Adam Ortiz was here. I don't see him, but appreciate you for being here. This has been this is a project a long time coming. Apparently the research began in 1999. And at that time, the board was convinced that reducing our carbon footprint, producing green energy, and improving the quality of our biosolids were worthy of a sizable financial investment. So the board approves spending on a variety of purposes. We approve expenditures for this facility where you sit now. We invest in the water and the wastewater conveyance systems, approve expenditures for laying a pipe, buying of chemicals, and much of what we do is mandatory. Like what people have mentioned, the nanny and the $2.6 billion Clean Rivers program. This was a unique expenditure. It wasn't mandatory. We weren't told we had to do it by any regulatory body. Instead, we made this investment because it was the right thing to do. It advanced the interests of both the ratepayers and the environment. The general manager, George Hawkins, likes to say that Blue Plains is the largest recycling facility in the District of Columbia. It takes the used water and makes it clean and puts it back into the environment. But you've also heard today that DC Water is the largest user of energy in the district. Water's heavy. It takes a lot of energy to move it around. And so today, DC Water becomes a green power plant. And you've already heard that it will generate about a third of the power to operate Blue Plains. But I think even more significant is that it's going to reduce the hauling costs. DC Water will save something in the range of $11 million a year because the amount of biosolids that are hauled from this site, and you probably saw as you drove in the facilities for hauling out the biosolids, has been reduced significantly. And that's going to save $11 million, more than twice the amount of money we're going to save by generating energy here. Early in my career, I worked for the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewerage District, and MMSD, since the 20s, has produced a product called Milorganite, which is something similar, but not quite as good. Actually, doesn't even compare to what is being produced here. I also noticed the last time I was at a home improvement store in the district that you could purchase milorganite, a product from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, here in DC. So, Mr. General Manager, I offer you a challenge. I want to put DC's biosolids in the near future on my garden here in the District of Columbia. That would be the ultimate honor. And so today I offer my congratulations to the General Manager, DC Water employees, the contractors, and the DC Water Board of Directors for delivering this cutting-edge facility. It's a testament to the innovation and leadership of the General Manager, the employees, and the Board of Directors working together. And I encourage everyone here to work to improve how we deliver public services to the public. Taking calculated risks, like what has been done here, means that we improve the lives of those who we have the privilege of serving. Thank you very much.
I want everyone to remember that you heard it here first, and you heard it from the board chair, because we hope to have a product that will be on the shelves of DC stores along with milorganite to get more revenue back and be even recycling more than we are now. I also wanted to mention David Bardeen. He's not currently a board member, but he was when the decision was made. Thank you, David. And for those of you who know Willie Walker, he was the board chair when we made this decision. I also want to point out, I saw him earlier. Is Len Benson still here? Or did he go back to work? Ah, there he is. Len Benson is the chief engineer of DC Water. He's the one that's overseen most of the designs and the hard work that went into knowing how to do this. So he's also one of our very best public servants. He hasn't retired, so he's still on duty. But one of the things he did is he hired Walt. But Len, your team has been so good at this. It's been great for the work that you've done. We do have a lot of friends here, the American Society of Civil Engineers, the Anacostia Watershed Society, the Clean Water Action, National Association of Clean Water Agencies, the Water Environment Federation. We did 40 published peer-reviewed papers to demonstrate that the research, that this would work when we invested in it. WSSC, the Sierra Club, they're all here to take part in this advance for DC Water, and we're just delighted. I won't extend the effort anymore. We do have some giveaways, as you heard about, with some really interesting documents. Brown and Caldwell did one when I first saw it. I asked, why did we show what this looked like before the work? Well, just tilt it a bit, and you'll see how it goes back and forth from before to after. And the last comment is, Walt, we started with you, and we'll conclude this effort with you, because ultimately this is about people, whether it's from the private companies, the universities, or the extraordinary servants at DC Water or all of our partners. It is people that did this project. And Walt, you embody all of that service, and we'd like you to turn the dial here and light up the DC Water sign. This is power being generated from the new 13 megawatt power plant of clean water. So Walt, when you're ready, go. DC Water. Congratulations, Walt. Thank you also for coming today. It's a delight to be part of it. This is a triumph of human spirit. Thanks so very much.